Flame, every time I see you, when you start talking about credit, you just be so turned up. You be through the roof. I said, I lost my life over this. I lost my freedom over this.
Welcome to this episode of the ECFO Show, the Entrepreneur CFO Show, the podcast where we have candid conversations around the topics that entrepreneurs need to know in order to win. So before we get started, I'd always like to start with a thought of the day. And today's thought of the day, what dropped in my spirit to share was one word: transparency. And the reason it kind of dropped in my spirit, I've been, on social media and seeing some of the posts here, and, everybody's shooting their shot and, painting the best images of themselves, which I totally get, right? You're trying to build up your following. You're trying to build up your list. You're trying to generate some revenue, the whole nine. But in the midst of, building that up, remember to be transparent, y'all. Let's keep it 100. One of the challenges I always have is when people, come up to me or they say to me like, "Hey, P, how business going?" My first response, saying like many, I was like, "Oh, it's going great." You know what? Your business ain't going great all the damn time. Let's keep it 100. You know what I'm saying? We all have our ups and downs. So now it's like, no, I'm burnt out. You know what I'm saying? But, we're getting better. Or you know what? Hey, we're in growth mode right now. You know what I'm saying? We had a rough quarter, you know what I'm saying? But we're excited about this upcoming quarter, right? Keep it transparent, because you know what transparency does? It allows you to connect with people. Because if you're always, life is perfect, life is good, I don't have a worry in the world, you're not keeping that shit 100. That's not even human. Humans like to connect with other humans. And I recently traveled over to Dominican Republic with my wife. And it's just crazy. We sat down and connected with one of the workers over there and just had that transparent conversation about marriage. On the surface, people may look at me and my wife and be like, "Oh man, you guys are a phenomenal couple." And we are, I'm saying, absolutely love my wife to death. But guess what? We have our challenges. We have our ups and downs, but that's what makes us so real and relatable, because we keep it 100. So entrepreneurs, keep in mind, while you're out there building your brand, keep it 100. People want to be able to connect with real people, not people who are, you're doing 7 figures every day and just sleep. No, keep it 100 for folks. You know what I'm saying? People just really appreciate that. So that's what dropped in my spirit today to kind of share with my thought of the day. And now I'm really excited to get into today's information and the guest here. So the guest we're bringing on here, I have his bio up here in front of me. It's absolutely crazy, and I'll let him share some of it. But he's nationally recognized as America's #1 credit educator. He has a phenomenal story, one that I really connect with, and it's crazy because we talk about transparency. When I first heard your story, I was like, "This is nuts. This is movie worthy, and we need to get a movie about this popping because your story is that good." But this brother's name is Flame Newton. We got connected through our sister, Chandrita Boykins. Big shout out, the sis for getting us connected. I'm just really excited to kind of bring in a Flame to talk about credit, but not just credit, but just entrepreneurship. And those who know, like from a CFO standpoint, cash is king, but credit is queen. So, to have somebody on here to talk about credit, which is super important. I know it's a hot topic for everybody, but his story of how he, and I'll let him share his story here, but his story is just absolutely phenomenal to me. So with that being said, man, I want to introduce my brother from another mother, Flame Newton, joining us here. And also, too, want to give him a shout out for his latest book release here. What's the name of the book, Flame?
The School of Credit. Learn and master the 12 levels of the American credit system.
Let's first start off kind of with the book, and then I'm going to get into your backstory, which is super dope. So break this book down, man. The School of Credit, talking about the 12 levels. So there's levels to this, man. So break this down for us, brother. Tell us a little bit about your book and how you came about writing this thing.
Oh, man. It's what happened was it's a crazy scenario. Is that I was just sitting around. I was locked up. I was in prison. And I remember I used to just have these little conversations with folks on the yard, right? And for people to understand what the yard is an outside confinement which prisoners are confined to, right? So out there, that's where you kind of, you politic. And so I would have these conversations, and I had a way of redirecting every conversation into a monetary aspect that didn't involve anything besides hustling. That's all everyone was talking about, was the hustling aspect. So even when I would come on the yard and I would talk about the credit aspect and this sort of thing, I would just understand that I used to garner crowds, right? So it started off with like one person, and then you talk to two, and the next thing you know, people are walking that you don't even know. They kind of stopping. They were just looking from afar, and the next thing you know, you're talking to a crowd of different individuals, right? And so with that being said, I just remember that every time people will walk away from me, they used to say these same sayings. And that was, man, I sure wish they would have taught me credit while I was in school. And then that got me to thinking one day. And so shout out to my cell buddy, man, Tommy Woodford out of down out there in Arkansas. It's my guy. Right. And so I'm sitting in the cell with him, and I just never forget. He thought I was going crazy. And it's just, I had one of those moments. And that moment was, I was like, the school of credit. 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 Right? So my cell buddy thought I was just going crazy. He was like, man, what is wrong with you? Right? It was in the middle of the night. It's like 3:30 in the morning. I just went bananas. And I started crying. Right? I had tears down my face, and he didn't even know what happened. And he was like, yo, what's going on? I said, yo, this is a place where everybody can learn about credit, right? And when you learn about credit, I teach it in one grade level at a time, but each grade represents something different pertaining to credit. Yo,
the 12 levels, it's the grades. What?
So when that moment hit me, man, it was like none other. And then what folks would understand is how I used to come was like when I used to be in the unit, which is, where you confined to. And I used to be talking with folks, like when they be playing spades and stuff, and they'll just sit around me like, because I'm explaining this whole thing, what I'm going through now. Like I'm envisioning it, except for I'm doing it is there's a movie I'm gonna talk to you about. And that movie is called Life. Now, I don't know if you ever seen that movie with Ray and Claude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would describe this school of credit to everybody about what did it look like and how would it be and what did it be, and that's where it came about. Right there. It came about in prison.
That's crazy. So this thing has been in the making, you know what I'm saying, for years. Absolutely crazy. So this is a great segue, man, because I know your story, but I love to hear you share your story, man, about how you ended up, you know what I'm saying, in prison and had to go sit down for some years. We talked about how we had to go sit down. We was in the system for about 10 years and whatnot. How do we end up in prison? Because this is the best part of the story that I love, man. Absolutely is mind blowing to me. So tell a little bit about that piece and how we got there.
Oh man. So I just got to take that moment every time.
Yeah.
My moment came. Well, I was running around and was doing credit and stuff like that, but then it was still in credit, right? And still in identities. Well, with this crew, they was always getting rid of the bad files. Right. So if it was 500, 600, they didn't want no parts of it. 400, they didn't want no parts of it. So I'm like, I'm looking, but I'm a Y kid. So first off, you may be the Y kid if you're listening, right? Or you may have a child that's a Y kid, or you may know somebody that's a Y kid. Now, what is a Y kid? A Y kid always asks the question, why, after everything. Right? They always trying to get to the root of it as opposed to you telling them anything. And so I would why these files asleep, like, why is this? Why is that? Why did these 30 days late here? And this is bad credit and this is that. So I got real interested into the credit system, right? Pertaining to that part. And then come to find out that then I started saying, okay, well, let me go to the bank on this one and let me go to the bank on that one. And I would go into the bank and not understanding that I can read people very well. That's something that I had a knack for early on, right? And one thing that I'm able to do is have this type of a communication block between individuals. And so when I get into an office of a banker, one of the key components was I used to do this thing called scan the room, right? And so when I scanned the room, I would find certain things like the kid playing soccer and that sort of thing. And I will communicate with the banker talking about my kid playing soccer. I ain't got no damn kid playing soccer, but I'm talking to them about it, right? And so they will open up to me and they would tell me certain things. And so I will understand that on the other side of this phone, every time they had to make a decision, it's always from them either picking up the phone or either sending out an email waiting on a response back. So my question is, I'm thinking they're talking to the branch manager when the response is coming back and the branch manager is on lunch. How is this even possible? Right. So then that got me into the why component of the person behind the scenes and locating that person, because in our neighborhoods, we was always taught that the banker was the person. Right. And so with that being said, come to find out that the person behind them was a person you couldn't see, touch, or none of that. And that person was called the underwriter. Right. Yeah. And so understanding that the underwriter makes all the decisions. And so going behind the underwriter, there's another component. And that component is called the underwriting guidelines. Now, where did I get all of this from? Because I'm trying to locate the underwriter. Now, I had to find out where can I find one and where are they located? Until I investigated even further with my whys and found out they had conventions and conferences and seminars and workshops that pertain nothing but underwriters. So if I knew if I could get into those buildings or where they were at and those components of what was going on, then that would have me surrounded by a bunch of underwriters, right? And these were the people that make the decisions. So I got into that component, stealing identities, until there's a point of this action that I called what goes up must comes down, right? And so with me, every single day, like somebody puts on their clothes and they go to work, that was my job. Each and every day, in and out, I'm going into a financial institution. I'm going into a bank, and my job, I have one goal and one goal only: to come out that bank with the money. With no ifs, ands, up, with nothing else about it. I got to get the money. The money was the issue of the situation, the actual cash flow. And so while you meet some people, they rob banks and they have a mask over their face and they go in there with a pistol. Well, except for I would go in there with a polo shirt on, and except for I would have a pen. And I would do the same exact thing, right? And as they say, what goes up must come down. And it all came crashing down on me when I got put in the back of that Tahoe or that Yukon, and I got all those agents in me, and they went down that path from that way, you know?
Yeah. So the deal is, and I want to make sure that folks are crystal clear on this, what you started doing was taking poor credit files, 400, 500, below, optimal credit files, and learning how to improve those credit files in order to go get money. So you were stealing the identities of people with bad credit, building their credit profile, and then getting yourself positioned to go into the bank to get the money. Is that what's going on, man?
Exactly right. So what I understood was that there are three people that only care about this stuff. And that's the government, the media, and the mall. I'm going to say that again. That is the government, the media, and the mall. They have positioned to dissect our minds to keep thinking about this credit score. Credit score, when in fact it has nothing to do with the credit score. What it all has to do with, I'm not gonna say that has nothing to do with the credit score. That's just part of it, right? So to be crystal clear, is that the main focus of it is the contents in which makes the credit profile. And so a lot of times people are saying, when it comes time to the money aspect, they keep talking about the score, but they don't have nothing on their profile. And then that got me to understand and saying, hey, if I go to the bank with this, they would give me $15,000. But if I would attach an actual a business to this, right? That means at that point they would give me more money off of that pertaining to the business, and then I would get deeper than that. So the money that they're giving me is because I attached to the business, but because they want to see the means of income coming in. So if I can change the dynamics of the income that's coming in, right, that could change the components. So think about this, Perry. One of the things that I tell people is if you walk into a bank, one of the things that I used to be peculiar about is walking into a bank, right, and they ask me this question. They love this question. And that question is, how much do you make, right? When they ask you how much do you make, the moment that you open your mouths, they can accept that information and they will input that information, right? I think that's a fair assessment. But as you get closer to this, you will understand that what if you told them that you didn't know how much you made, right? You don't know, right? Now at this point, what they're going to do is they're going to ask to pull what they call a 4506T, which is considered a tax transcript, right? But if they see these things that is on this transcript, that means at that point, they make their decision based upon what they saw. You understand me? That means can't be any conflict of interest pertaining to what they're saw. So what if I went in, right, and filed taxes at $1.5 million on a business, right, and then turn back around and file taxes again at $2.2 million for the following year? So at that point, when they see in my last 2 years tax returns, what they actually saw was a $700,000 increase. I never told them that I made 1.5. I never told them that I made 2.2. Only thing that I did was sign off on a tax transcript and allow them to see that tax transcript. Now, at that point, when I came into the building, my name is James Smith, for example. When I come in, they say, "Hey, James, how you doing?" Right after they pull my tax transcript and I come back again, that time I come in and now I'm Mr. Smith. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just a difference of how you're being appreciated. And once I felt that authority that I had control pertaining that who I was at that time, I understood that now that I control the outcome. Because only thing that I had to do, and I'm making sure that I'm clear, and I say this on any platform that I'm on, is I'm all remorseful for anything and everything that has ever occurred, right? I never make light of the situation. So only thing that I'm telling you is things that happen on a daily occurrence. So with that being said, added on to it, now I'm telling you that if you can control what they see, that will determine what you get. Because the only thing that they're going off of, see, we're so used to talking, right? My thing is, let's quit out the talking and let your documentation do the talking.
Oh my gosh.
So now if your documentation does the talking on that end, now you control that entity. I mean, when you start getting into those components, those are the things that went around.
Man, I'm over here mind blown because it's crazy. When you mentioned that, was it the 4506T? Is that the right form?
Yes,
I
sir.
remember when I was in the banking industry, that form would come up. We weren't dealing with it on the advisor side, but on the business banking side and things of that nature. And that's exactly what it was. They was pulling that to see what the income was looking like. That is so crazy. So there's so many gems in here that you're dropping, man. I'm trying to digest this stuff as we go. So a couple of things. One, you went through this stint in your life, you know what I'm saying? You was out here, doing your thing. You then had to go sit down, you know what I'm saying, for a couple of years. While you sat down, then it came to you like, man, we're going to start teaching this school of credit. We're going to launch this school of credit piece. And now you're out here with a book blessing all of these lives. So it's crazy that, you know what I'm saying, just the experiences that we go through in life. So you had to go sit down for a couple of years, you know what I'm saying, to do your time for what you did. But then you took that experience and didn't come out more hardened, but you came out on fire to bless people and share this information with them. Because you and I both know, man, if people understand how to build their credit, you know what I'm saying, you're looking at better cars, you're looking at better loans, you're looking at homes, better interest rates, things of that nature. And it's absolutely, that's really impacting people's lives. And that's definitely one of those components of generating wealth. It's not the only component, but it's one of those components. And what you teach is how you can then use that credit to go out here and get the money. I've been on a lot of your clubhouses, and I love how you say, man, it ain't about the credit. It's about the access to the money that the credit allows you. And then if you got your head on straight and the right team around you, now you can go out and buy real estate and things of that nature, man. So I love your story. Something that really stuck out to me here, man, was the language. I just did a presentation for the Ohio State University around financial literacy. And it's crazy because what you talked about was you niched down and you said, okay, if it's the underwriter who makes the decision on giving me money, I need to go and be around more underwriters to learn what they're looking for or learn their language. Brother, that's so powerful right there. I want you just to speak on that just a little bit, because this is what I tell folks all the time. Financial literacy, if you break down just the two words, finance, you know what I'm saying? Understanding how money is moved, you know what I'm saying? Whether we're talking about lending, investing, borrowing, growing, whatever the case may be. And literacy, can you speak the language? If you can't speak the language of money, you ain't financially literate. And that's the issue, that people can't speak the language. So it's kind of like me being in the DR, Dominican Republic, not being able to speak Spanish. And, I'm handicapped. I can't move the way I want to move. But talk a little bit about, man, you know what I'm saying, just that whole piece, because I think that's hella powerful right there. That just talk about the importance of the language around just understanding what the underwriter is looking for. Because shit, you're walking in with the answers to the test already. Go ahead.
Definitely, man. I mean, like when one of the things is that I talk about, right, and I make sure I say that on every level, is the education part was key. But see, the thing about it was they was keeping this education from us because they was compiled in different components. And so what I understood was I had to go to these components, right? So when I'm not just talking about underwriting conventions and conferences, man, when you're talking about going across this globe pertaining to going to get the information, right? I'm not even going to sit here and toot my own horn. You wouldn't find nobody that would, man, listen, I went to every conference, every convention, every workshop, every seminar. If somebody held it, I was there. I was a part of it. I was in it, right? One of the things is that I did this thing called follow. I was doing follow way before they started doing this stuff, right? In the social media campaign, I will follow an individual to a point that where, so Perry, I'm using you for example, right? Mm-hmm. So Perry, if I see you in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? This weekend, 2 weekends later, you're speaking down in Orlando, Florida. You happen to see me, right? And then say hypothetically, a month later, you happen to be in Albany, New York, right? And then you happen to see me in Sacramento, California. You see the same faces that's there. When I say hello to you, your conversation is going to be a lot next because now you want to know who am I, because all of these places that you're going to are totally different events. I shouldn't be at these places. The first time you're saying, okay, the second time you're going to say, damn, I think I recognize this guy. The third time you're like, I know I've seen him before. Now, the fourth time when I come up to you, then I used to do something different, right? Because I'm upfront and honest, and I don't want to hold that back. I used to steal the identities of the professionals that I was involved with, right? And you say, well, Flame, why would you even do that? Why would you steal the professionals' IDs? The reason why I would do it was the fact of I needed to have a common ground with some of these people. So when I would go into these conferences and workshops, I would see that these speakers was there, right? I didn't know anything about them. So what I would do was at this time, what I would go back into is I would investigate them. So what do you know about somebody talking to you about, man, how's Jason doing? You know who Jason is? Jason is your oldest son who's 19. I had no idea. I should not know who Jason is, right? But I know Jason is your son, or he has some capacity to you, because when I'm looking at these credit reports and I'm looking at these different components, because they got different systems, I see that same particular name that's following you, and that person is 22 years younger than you. So what other person could it be if they have the same name? So when you add these components into it, to where I'm getting into, so these made my conversations a lot smoother with them going into it. And I always understood that when I saw these professionals that was there, and if I could just, everybody likes to communicate with somebody that knows something and that can add value to them. That's all I ever knew. If you could communicate to somebody, right, and they can add value to you, you have no problem at all with adding value to them, because now you see an even skill between. So if I knew that if I could communicate, as you saying, in that language and in those terms, that would change the trajectory of our conversation. And so that was the key components that I was on. I was making sure that I had a constant communication with them so they can actually understand that.
Man, so much fire here, man. I gotta try to unpack some of this. So one, having a common ground. It starts with, can you speak the language? If you and I can't speak the same language, if you speak in French and I'm speaking English and you don't know what I'm saying and I don't know what you're saying, we can't communicate with each other. So one, you know what I'm saying? One, knowing the language. Two, getting in the room, right? You know what I'm saying? Putting yourself into the room, making those connections, you know what I'm saying? Networking with folks. And it's crazy because I think I just did a post about this today, man. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's talking about this word, generational wealth and whatnot, but are you even understanding the system around creating that? And what you did with the credit piece, man, is you peeled that onion all the way back and learned all the aspects of it, which is crazy, which is just mind blowing to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I was saying, like, when I got into it, I used to wire that credit to sleep. I'm wiring it to sleep. So when I'm looking at this credit stuff, that was when I talk about, sometimes people didn't understand when I say this stuff. Like when I used to go to Atlanta, right? And I knew where Equifax was off of Peachtree Street. And right, I always understood that what I had to do was get somewhere close to it, right? And find a place that did something that was out of the ordinary, like serve alcohol, right? And if you understood that there's bars and there's alcohol and there's a big building, evidently someone in an environment would happen to come in there. And I would sit there. And I knew that on Fridays afternoons or Thursdays, they would have happy hours. And I knew that if I was there around that time, I would meet these individuals and I'm conversating with them. And these are people that are in these spaces, and they will let me know and they would tell me different things that was going on. Why? Because I would say certain things acting like I'm not a part of the organizations or anything that I'm a part of. And then I would come back in. So when you state that component and when you start understanding about letter writing or how you write into the credit bureaus and about the systems that they use and about how you can put a letter through the machine and they'll send the same individual letter back. So then that's when I became aggressive. I started saying, you know what? I'm not going against this because the credit industry states that you're supposed to do it this particular way. I don't do it that way. So what I understood was that these people that are working here, they're individuals who live down the street from you. They just so happen to have a job at Equifax, right? So if I understood that these people are making anywhere between 10 to $20 an hour. And I understood that and I knew that, right? So the only thing I knew at this point is they would start to tell me different things like, I get tired of work and I got to process this and I got to do this. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So what would make you stop doing this, right? And then I started understanding the American system and how the American system, right? And how the American systems, like when you walk in front of a door, if you walk into any establishment, any store in America, what would they put on the door? They will tell you the denomination of monetary means in which they will accept by coming into the store. Any store in America, they will put something up there. We take Visa, MasterCard. We don't take American Express. We take cash. We don't take money order. So when you start to see this type of stuff, you got to also understand there's a flip side of this. When it comes to letter writing, to these credit bureaus, people only think about writing in pen or writing in pencil. But guess what? They don't give you, there's no rule, no law, no code, no amendment in America that states which way that you can write something down on a sheet of paper, right? And so with that being said, I understood that if I could control the different components of how you can write on a letter to send to someone, at that point, now I can control the responses. Why? Because now all letters are processed through a machine. eOscar, online source for complete and accurate reporting. So if I knew that if I could bring it out of that format, right, and I could put it in the hands of a human at that point, and then I have to make them do work. I started understanding the work process. What does the work process mean? What if you add 16 staples to a letter, right? The letter's still there, just 16 staples in it. Now what I'm gonna have to do is I'm about to start work. What does the work mean? Work means that individual is gonna have to pick out every one of them staples, and then there's gonna get a point where they're gonna just say, fuck this, right? And excuse my language, I just had to say it in that tone and in that manner. So if anybody that has to do more work than they have to do, they become frustrated. Just like when you go into the bank. Understanding this, one of the things is that when people go into the banks and they're saying this, and it's clear, hey, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. People are saying, well, the bank ain't stopping me from doing this and the bank ain't stopping me from doing this. Well, guess what you're doing? You're not going into the bank prepared. You don't have all your documentation going on. So therefore, if you don't have your documentation, you're saying they're putting you through a loop because they asked you for a business plan.
Should have had it already. You should have walked in with it. You should have. So here's the deal. This is so crazy powerful right here, brother, because it's like it's reverse engineering on another level. If you know what the underwriter wants to see in order to get you X amount of dollars, what you do is you have the documentation to support that. So as soon as you walk in, you're like, yep, got that. Yep, got that. Oh, income, go ahead and pull the 45. Oh, I'm not for sure. I'm saying? It's fluctuate. I'm saying? They pull the 4506T. They're like, oh my goodness. Like you, when you know the answers to the questions, right? You already got the answers to the test. Then I tell people this all the time. It kind of even with financial planning. If we are crystal clear on what the results need to look like, then we just reverse engineer and build that out, to get that particular result. And this is just so powerful. You're just doing this. It's kind of similar to what I do on the planning side and the CFO side is what you're doing on the credit side, man. And it's so crazy powerful, which kind of goes into the next piece. I got a note right here was the documentation. Let your documentation talk. So real quick, man, let's jump into the book here because I want to make sure we highlight the book, man. The School of Credit. Talk us through the book, man. Like what can they find in the book? Because I know there's a lot of different topics around credit that people talk about. Like I got some stuff here, what's the major difference between, the credit report and the credit score? Or, can I erase a debt? How about student loans? Kind of just, walk us through what people can expect to get out of the book, man, the School of Credit.
Okay. First off, number one, right. And I got to tell this at every level that I'm at. Right, the first 87 pages of this entire book, right? They've been revised they've been revised 1,000 times. But the first 87 pages of this book was written in lead. I didn't say pencil. I said it was written in lead. It was written in lead. So that tells you the desire that I had to get this information out. Jeez. Why? Because we was on lockdown, right? Yeah. We was on lockdown. We was on lockdown for 92 days. And so with them 92 days, I got into it after the second and third day, and each day I made sure that I wrote. It's so hard to write and just lay it. Each day I would try to write a page, right? So the first 87 pages was done in lead, right? First off, I'm telling you through my journey about what happened, as you can understand. The first grade, I'm telling you about I start the book off and I start from a different angle. And that is, I'm telling you about the process in which I learned it. So this book is only pertaining to the thoughts that was in my mind about how I learned it. Why was that? Because I'm telling you about the why aspect. Why number one, right? And I'll take you brief ones as we go through. First grade, I start talking to you about the why. Kindergarten, I talked to you about why the school of credit, right? Why? Why do you come up with a school of credit? Because why? 75% of the people, they're falling in debt. And within the first 2 years after getting their credit fixed and prepared to clean, because they have not been educated on credit, right? So even though that you're getting your credit fixed and clean, if you don't know the outcome of it, you're going back in the same hole again, right? Number two, in chapter one, in first grade, I talk about, I start getting into components about why credit, like how did credit begin? Where do we come from? Where did this whole thing, what ordeal start from? I start talking about the Social Security number. How was it created? What does the number mean? I'm getting into these because these are my why questions. I'm whying you now, right? Then I get in second grade, I start talking about the credit bureaus. Why do we have them? Where did they come from? What did it mean? What does that mean for us, right? Then there's a second part, and I start talking about the secondary agencies, which people don't like to talk about, right? The Sage Streams, the LexisNexis, and these places, they have a plethora of different information that contains it about you. Do you understand why you get denied when you go into a rental property, even though that your credit score you seem is decent, right? And these are different agencies that control that, right? So then you get into to third grade when I start talking about the credit reports, so what's on the credit reports and those type of things, right? And then I start ending it out with the student loans about what is the forbearance and what is the deferment? How does that mean? How does that affect you? And then you get into the fourth grade where I talk about bankruptcies, right? You won't find a bankruptcy. Listen, I'll say this with anything. You won't find a bankruptcy book. Listen what I'm saying, Perry. You won't find a bankruptcy book with as much powerful bankruptcy information that I got in this book, right?
Ooh-wee.
That's just one of the grades in there. That's fourth grade, right? So when I get into fifth grade, I'm start talking about the credit scores. Why the credit scores? How was they created? What does all of these things mean, right? How is the credit score even calculated? What does it mean? All of these different aspects that you get into it. I talk about my Purdy system, all right? When I'm from the South, we talk about Purdy. Everything is Purdy, right? What does Purdy mean? Purdy mean it could be a car, it could be a girl, it could be anything. But when that there Purdy, man, you can get anything you want. Your confidence is through the roof, and that's why I talk about that, right? Then you get into sixth grade when we start talking about the actual the people that govern credit, the people that protect you, and what they are, and how can you locate them? What is something about them? Do you even know about the Fair Credit Billing Act? Do you even know about and when you start talking about these things about even how they build you, is that correct? Not even forget the disputing, how they build you, and you start to understand about things like the FDCPA, or do you start to understand about when you start to get in 15 USC 1692, when you start to understand that these creditors, when they're talking about they could sue you, look at it. It's section 1692 E number 3. Look at it. You can pull it up, right? And you'll see that these collection agencies, when they're talking about suing you and taking you to court, do they even have the right? So now we start moving forward in this. And when you start moving forward in this ordeal, then guess what? I don't even start talking about disputing credit until the 7th grade. And there were 6 grades I talked about prior to even disputing credit. And as you notice, that where does everybody start at? They start at they make 7th grade their first grade. You see what I'm saying?
Hard pause, baby. No, hold on. Be stopping at 7th grade real quick. But I gotta interject this real quick, y'all. Yo, you can't skip steps. You can't skip steps in managing your cash flow in your business. You can't skip steps in creating your business. You can't skip steps in your credit. You cannot skip steps. Everybody want to skip addition and subtraction and go right to calculus 4, and you don't know how to add yet. You don't even know how to do long division yet. And what this brother is talking about is take you through these levels. So I love that, because you're absolutely right. Everybody goes to, I need to dispute this. I need to get this off. You got to get the background on this piece, man. And it's so powerful. I say this shit all the time. You cannot skip steps. Everybody who's ever listening, whoever can hear my voice, see my face, if you're watching us live or hear us on a podcast, stop skipping steps. You got to know the history behind this. 7th grade, and go, baby.
Seventh grade, we started talking about disputing credit, right? We started talking about some of the methods that I use that I talked about earlier in here, right? And all of these different aspects and what controls it and how does your letter even process when you send a letter to the credit bureau and all of those things that goes behind it, right? Then eighth grade, right? We start talking about this time, you start talking about rebuilding credit and what are the things that you need to have on the credit and how does it align right? Do you even understand about, well, I like to talk about how I love high credit limits, right? But I also understand that I max out cards. Everybody says you need to be at 30%. No, I don't believe in no 30%. I'm in the game. Like, max that damn card out. Max it out. And you say, what does you mean by maxing it out? Nobody ever tells me this. Let Perry buy me something. Perry says, you know what? Flame wears hats all the time. I'm going to buy Flame a hat. Perry comes over my house after Christmas. He sees the hat still in the wrapper. Hold up. Let's use this for it again. Perry comes around my house around 2 weeks later. He still sees the hat. 2 months later, he sees the hat. 8 months later, he still sees the hat. Guess what? He bought me a hat. I'm not using the hat. How enthusiastic is Perry about giving me a hat again next Christmas or give me a gift again? Why? Because I'm not using the gifts that he's giving me. So that goes along with the money that they're giving you. If you're not using that money, they don't want to continue to give you money, right? People's talking about the $0 balances, having the $0 balances. $0 balances will kill your score. Actually, it will kill your score. It will do more ways than one. What is the more ways than one? That means they will actually close your account. When they close that account, that drives your credit score down. So, when you start moving around, then you start talking about ninth grade, when you start talking about identity theft and how to protect yourself and all the things that's under there. Even when you start talking about CPNs and you start understanding about the credit suite, there's so many different things that you can understand that will actually get you in dire need trouble and how to protect yourself. And then you move over to 10th grade, where I start talking about the banking aspect and learn everything that's in banking. I spent more time in banking. I spent more time in banks than anybody that you ever seen, right? Because I'm in there every single day, right? Do you even understand about how I'm sitting in a Fifth Third Bank in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this lady got the ID and she's trying to lock me in there, right? And it's a green light, red light, and you stuck between the two, and they calling the cops on you, and the lady makes a mistake and lets you get up out of there, and you turn around and you just catch the next car that's going and say, hey, I need a ride up the street because you got to get up out of there. You leave your car in the parking lot because you got to get the hell out of there, right? So when I talk about these components of getting in 11th grade, about talking about case laws and court laws, about how to protect yourself and what do they do pertaining to these court laws and the things that can govern you, protect you, and how to do it if these harassers and these collections people keep calling your phone over and over and over, and the things that you can do to them about how you can get $1,000 per violation or take them to court and sue them because now they did mental damage to you, right? Then you start getting into 12th grade, which is your graduation year, when I start talking about what is your dreams and what is your goals, right? Where are you trying to go from here? So you got your credit fixed and it took you to a long point to get here, right? And so we all been through this struggle, right? But one of the things is, it's not about where you've been, it's about where you're going. So these are the components that I want to tell you. And also, I want to let people know this. They say, Flame, you always just be so turned up when you be talking about credit. They said, every time I see you, when you start talking about credit, you just be so turned up. You be through the roof. I said, I lost my life over this. I lost my freedom over this. I said, I used to be standing outside the door, and I used to be standing out there at the cell door, like, man, when I get up out of this place, and I'm gonna come out roaring fire. I'm coming out, and I'm swinging it. And so when you get in this component, now you can see that passion about when you only get 300 minutes a month on the phone, or when you gotta wait for a letter to come to you in the mail with some pictures in it, or when you got your grandmother coming to you, see you on visitation, and you gotta squat. I'm about to get naked now to you. You gotta squat, get butt naked in front of another male to open up your butt cheeks, just so you can go see your grandma on a visitation and open up your mouth and say cough and all that. Man, listen, when you understand the pain that I've been through, and that's the reason I give you this information, because I'm not just giving you information about something that somebody said. I'm not giving you information about something I heard. I'm not giving you information about something that was on Google or YouTube. I'm giving you information directly about something I actually done, and is currently doing with a client now. Let's turn up, Perry. Man, it's not, it's CFO. Perry, you know you ain't gonna stop me. I gotta turn up. Let's rock, baby. Let's go.
That's why that's why I brought my coffee. I already knew what it was. That's why I brought my coffee. That's why I brought my coffee. That's why I brought my coffee. Brother, your energy is so dang on contagious, man. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? Just all of these gems that you dropping, fam, is absolutely crazy. And that passion, man, is why you are blessing so many lives. I see what you do, man. I see the information that you give away out there. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, y'all go and cop the School of Credit, get these levels, learn these levels. And let me tell you why. You know what I'm saying? You're there for sure. Condense these. And let me tell you guys why. If and anybody who can hear my voice, hear me loud and clear. This just is not, you know what I'm saying, me shouting out flame and in this book, but this is just something to live by when you think about your business. You have to condense time frames, right? You could spend the next 10, 20, 30 years trying to figure things out, or you can go to an expert, pay them for their time. So whether you're paying for their book or you're paying for their time, and condense that time frame instead of having to go and figure this thing out for 10, 20, 30 years and make all these mistakes, had that thing condensed down to 30, 60, 90 days. And that's worth money. You know, where would you be right now? You know what I'm saying? If your credit score was through the roof and you was up on all of this game right now, y'all. So you got to go out there and cop the book. I'm on Amazon right now. You know what I'm saying? About to hit my submit button on this piece and cop the book. And I already know what some folks going to say, and I'm going to go ahead and just say it for you. Stop being cheap. You're going to look at the price of the book and be like, oh, well, the book is too expensive. Are you kidding me? You should be paying Flame right now just for the gems he dropped right on mindset alone. So go ahead and pay the fee for the book. Get the book, because it's an aspect of the wealth creation piece that we talk about all the time, is getting that credit together. And also, too, experts. Everybody know I'm real big on this. I don't believe in taking advice from, you know what I'm saying, Joe Schmo, you know what I'm saying, because he posted something on social media and be like, oh, well, no, experts. This brother is tried and true. He's done it. Like, he didn't just improve his credit. He had, you know what I'm saying, I don't know how many files you had, Flame, you know what I'm saying? You ain't got to share, you know what I'm saying? But how many, you know what I'm saying? Like, he improved the credit of multiple files, you know what I'm saying? So he's tried and true. He's done it for himself. He's done it for other files. He's, you know what I'm saying, taking everything, his life's work and his passion, and put this thing into it, man. And brother, I just appreciate you, man, because your energy is super contagious, and you just got me hyped, man. You got me hype over here, brother. So, yeah, man. So check it. So we want to make sure that people know how to connect with you, man, and follow with you. You know what I'm saying? We're almost at the end of our piece here. I don't even want this shit to end. You know, so I might just call you up after the thing is over with and talk to you, because you just get me hyped. But how do people connect with you, man? And obviously they can go to Amazon, cop the book. You know what I'm saying? I'm on it right now. You can Google it, the School of Credit, pops right up. You know what I'm saying? Learn and master the 12 levels, you know what I'm saying, of the credit system, the American credit system. Go cop that. If you're serious about really understanding the credit game. But how do people connect with you, Flame, man? You know what I'm saying? I know Clubhouse, but, you know, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
One of the best ways that people connect with me, man, is I'm on Facebook. These are personal things, right? Well, I'm on Facebook. I'm in Clubhouse. One of the things is that I always tell people, man, I pop up in everywhere. I'm always interested. You can always get me at schoolofcredit@yahoo.com. That's one of the places that you can get me. You get me at flame@flamenewton.com, info at Flame Newton. I mean, it's so many places, but one thing is that you connect with me. And I'm appreciative of everything that everybody supported me, whether you bought the book, whether you listened to me, whether you spending time with me, or whatever. My whole objective is when I talk, right, or anything that I'm doing, I try to make sure I cover two things. That's it. These are two aspects that I'm always trying to cover. Number one is I'm trying to make sure that I'm giving you all factual information. That's it. And number two, I'm trying to make sure that I'm giving you something that's accurate information. So when it comes out of my mouth, I try to make sure that those two things are covered, right? No matter what form I do it in, I understand that I'm animated there sometimes because of how I am with it. But the two things that I'm involved with is making sure that I'm accurate and it's factual information that comes out of my mouth. And I do appreciate you. I appreciate the show. Entrepreneur CFO, Perry Jeffries, man, you know how it is. It's a salute to you. Nothing but love, man. And anybody, again, thanks a lot.
No doubt, y'all. So we're gonna close up this episode, y'all. We want to thank our guest, Flame Newton. Man, you know what I'm saying, for joining us, brother. You know what I'm saying? I was super excited about this because I already know your energy. I appreciate what you do. Your followers appreciate what you do, man. You're always just giving away tons of valuable information, y'all. Make sure y'all go and follow this brother, connect with him. Let him know, you know what I'm saying, when you connect with him, that you heard him on the ECFO show, show him some love. And also, too, we'll do a little plug for our company as well. Make sure you go to perryjeffries.com. We have a free resource page on there where you can get plugged into the YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. Flame will be his episode will be on there, so you better catch that if you need to share that out. That'll be on there here in the next couple of days as well. But definitely go and get access to all the free resources, because kind of like Flame, what Flame and I have in common is we have that servant spirit, right? You know what I'm saying? We're here to serve. We're here to help. And because of that servant spirit, we've been able to flourish. And then with our trials and tribulations, like you had to go sit down for a while and shoot, you know what I'm saying? I done took L's and had to sit on the sidelines and be forced at filing bankruptcy and losing a $4 million real estate portfolio. And what you have here, y'all, is kind of going back to what we talked about at the very beginning, is transparency, right? Keeping them 100 with folks. We have a story. We've learned from our story. And because of our, you know, trials and tribulations and our stories, we've been able to come back from those and been able to bless, you know, just multitude of people. And we're going to continue to keep blessing folks, man, with this information out there. And we may come across, you know what I'm saying, kind of brash. We only do that because we love you and we want you to hear us when we, you know what I'm saying, when we come and we get this information. So again, y'all, Flame, brother, appreciate your fam. You know what I'm saying? I know we'll be talking here soon. Keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for being a guest on the show, y'all. And that finishes up this episode, y'all. The ECFO show. Perry Jeffries here, the entrepreneur CFO. My man Flame Newton in the building, founder of the School of Credit. Let's go, y'all. Peace.